This podcast is sponsored by Relevant, a location-based mobile network personalized by your interests. Customize your news feed to consolidate all the information you care about all in one place to quickly and easily find what's relevant to you. Find out what's going on in your local area and reach your community from the palm of your hand. Relevant is available on iOS and coming soon to Android. Be the first to know with Relevant.
What's up, everybody? You're listening to the Poorly Edited Podcast. My name is Coffee Guy. We're live on WXLV The X, and I'm here with my lovely co-hosts, Amresse Farrow and Patrick Lilly. I hope you guys are doing very, very well. Today's really fun because it's sort of like a follow-up episode to the one that we had a couple weeks ago, where we had Daniel Roebuck on, who was the director and star of Getting Grace. We have Grace herself on today. Madelyn Dundon, how are you doing?
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Coffee Guy, I'm so happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
I can't even speak. I just look at you, and you're just incredibly beautiful and smart and talented. And I just want to bow at your feet. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I want it to be known to all that are listening that I'm not paying Amresse to pay me any of the compliments that she will be giving me or that she has in the past as of these couple seconds.
I don't think that's going to stop, though. I think she has her everything set.
Yes.
So we're going to get into Getting Grace, and we're going to get into all of the cool theater stuff that's going on, too. But I have to. Something really important to talk about here is that Pat and Amresse did something really mean, and they actually ran away from me like 2 weeks ago.
And we came back, so there's that. But
I haven't gotten to hear anything about your trip to Florida, so.
You can.
Yeah.
Just got to adjust the mic a little bit. So our trip to, it was first of all, it was Pat's first time on a plane. His first time to Florida, his first trip by himself, and his first time to Disney.
Just a small town boy in the big city.
And we got to go visit Chandler and Lizzie. We went over to Universal City Walk.
Nice.
We got to go to Disney World. Every park except for Magic Kingdom.
Which I'm okay with.
Yeah. And then we even did something productive without our dear Zach here. We got to go to the Relevant offices in Jacksonville, and they graciously had us to do a podcast there. And that was wonderful, shooting with them and filming and learning a little bit more about that app and that new venture that's going on. And that episode will be coming out very soon.
Tell me more about Disney. That's what I want to hear about. What was your first experience like at Disney?
Well, I thought I was too old for it, and I thought it'd be kind of lame, honestly. And I don't really like large amounts of people all in the same place. Yeah. Especially, I don't know, people get weird when it's in crowds and stuff. And they just like all become terrible, trying to push past each other to get places.
Is it like that at Disney? It's the happiest place on earth.
It is
perfect
like
time, I think, because there was like no one there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good time.
It's usually absolutely packed and crowded. And he was a little apprehensive because I've worked there before. Chandler works there. He's heard a few things, so he thought that he might not like Disney very much.
It wasn't even just that. It was also, there's that. And I just I don't know, it's a lot of people. It kind of freaks me out if it's too many people. And I thought it was like kind of designed. Yeah. I thought it was going to be designed more towards kids, but at least the parks we went to, I had a good time. And like the magic was still there. It was still like the scale everything was built on and how elaborate everything was still a sight to behold.
There's something for everyone at Walt Disney World. I really want to go to the Beauty and the Beast castle. I hear I
had a lunch there, like a whole the breakfast lunch there with the characters.
I had a business lunch there.
I was 4 years old. Cinderella invited me herself. Oh, wow. Actually, I said this I actually worked there. I did the DCP, but I said this on my application. They said, "Why are you doing this?" And when I worked there, when I was a little girl, I was there like 5 years old, and I was underneath Cinderella's castle. And a horrible storm came. I started freaking out, and I was crying and I was screaming. And this woman that worked there came over to me, and she sprinkled fairy dust on me, and she said, "Now you have the magic. Now everything's going to be okay." And little did I know it was Florida, so it stormed all the time, and the rain went away, and the sun came out 5 seconds later. And I thought that it was real magic, and I was like, what? So I had my grandmother track her down. She told us that she did this college program that you could live there and work there and make dreams come true.
Destiny.
Like, Grammy, I'm going to do that. And that's when I was 5 years old. So then I was like, I got to go back there and do that. And then they heard that story and they were like, come on over.
I'm emotional.
Yeah.
That
and
was
then I did
I
it.
chills.
And then I helped Chandler do it. So Chandler has abandoned us and left us to do that right
he'll
now.
Be back soon. He also, Karma hit him
Don't
real
come
hard
back, Chandler.
Because two of me and Chandler's favorite bands had a concert in Philly while he's down there, and I got to see them both, and he didn't. So
well, also the reason he's not calling in today is actually because he's quite sick, and he just got out of the hospital. And if you want to send him a get well card, don't bother. It's fine because he has it coming. So whatever. I'm glad you guys had a good time. It was cold and rainy and wet and all that cool stuff down here. But whatever. It's good that you guys got some time to relax a little bit.
So that's the first time I've ever been to Disney. So like, or even in Florida, but I still had the sense to bring a jacket because I know that weather still affects area near the equator.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
And Amresse brought one jacket.
Oh, and she's been to Florida before. You haven't been but you brought a right. Okay, yeah, I got you. Okay.
What makes it even
turns out Florida gets cold sometimes. Yeah. It's wild.
What makes it even worse is that I've been flying down to Florida to visit and to do some work there with Relevant about every other week. I'm flying down to Florida. So the fact that the week before was so warm, then I was like, well, it's fine. And then I didn't bring a jacket, and they all had their jackets. And to teach me a lesson, they would not share their jackets with me, which is bad karma, guys.
It's something that became our problem when you didn't bring a jacket. That's the thing I didn't understand.
Karma's going to bite you in the butt.
It was like my fault you didn't bring a jacket.
Because you guys, I'm a little child, and you need to baby me. You guys know that. So you need to be like, you need to bring your coat. You need to bring your coat.
Well, all right. So, as it turns out, your trip to Florida wasn't that interesting, but that's all right. That's okay. That's fine. It's all right. Today's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, we have Madelyn Dundon here, star of Getting Grace. I want to talk about how you got the role exactly. Yeah. From what I understand, Daniel Roebuck actually knew your father, if you want to go from there.
Yes. We'll start at the very beginning. Can you finish that? The very first place to start.
You think I can sing?
Yeah.
You're on your own. I'm sorry.
Coffee guy. So Danny directed my father, Patrick, as I told Patrick Lilly.
Nice.
My daddy, Patrick, is also Patrick Lilly's freaky dad. What are you doing here? And Danny directed him in his 8th grade one-act play. And then they both went to the same high school at different times. Danny was older than my dad. And I met Danny for the first time when I was in grade school at a CYO dance. And his best friend is the father of one of the girls in my sister's class, and so we were all at the CYO dance.
I need a flow chart for that one. What was that?
I know. So if I could draw you a graph here, at the top we have Daniel Roebuck, and every line coming out of Daniel Roebuck is a connection to every person in the Lehigh Valley.
The 6 degrees of 6 degrees of separation.
6 degrees of Daniel Roebuck. Yeah. All of you right now are well, obviously having met him, you are connected to Danny Roebuck, but everybody in the Lehigh Valley is connected to him at some point. He showed up at the CYO dance. That's where I met him for the first time. Fast forward like 6 years, he came to visit Bethlehem Catholic High School, where I was a senior at the time, and they said, Dan, we have 2 theater students that are going to give you a tour of the school. So myself and another theater student, Liam Nixon, gave him a tour of the school, and we met, and he probably thought I was a crazy person, just like the character, I guess, apparently. And then he asked me to audition for the role because he was auditioning local kids.
So what does that feel like when somebody like Daniel Roebuck, who has had a career in Hollywood for so long, goes, I want you to audition for my movie?
Well, my instinct was, he's just being nice, He knows my dad. He knows, about my love for theater and the Becca connection. And for me, that was just, it was just a nice gesture. It was a nice thing for him to do. He's so selfless and generous and kind. So that's totally something that he was giving all these other local kids an opportunity to audition. So it was just, it was an honor, really, to get to know him.
So you got the part.
Yes.
You got the part for this role, for the lead of this. Spoiler. She gets the part. Yeah. And then, did you know at that time what would be involved physically for this role?
Oh, yes, we'll get to physical. So before I auditioned, he said one of the rules was that for all the girls auditioning for Grace, you had to agree that if you got the part, you would shave your head. So I came home from school and my mom said, Maddie, Danny's auditioning, and he's auditioning local kids, and he says that before you audition, you have to agree that if you get the part, you will shave your head. And I had really, really long hair because I have a dancer and it's always up in a bun. And I just was like, it's a movie. Of course. I'll do whatever. I'll do whatever to get the part. Of course.
Like,
no
that's
problem.
All, dude.
That's all. Oh my gosh. Exactly. Yeah.
So you shave your head, but your hair is so beautiful and long.
Thank
and
you,
thick.
Amresse. Here's a 20. Like I promised.
So, but it grows back so quickly.
It does.
So on set, you just had to like have a razor with you and just like shave your head.
So we would shave about twice a day.
What?
Every day. What?
Would you get like 5 o'clock shadow? Except like,
Exactly,
wow,
Pat. And that is always what I say. I go, so I would get a 5 o'clock shadow. We were doing 16-hour day shoots. We would get there at 6 a.m. and we would be leaving at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. on some nights. You know, it was really long days. And so my stubble would come back in, and Danny had said, I don't want to see a hairline. So we covered the black roots on my head with makeup. So in order for that makeup to look good, the head had to be very smooth. So it was a 2 time a day thing. It really became an incredible ritual for me, because every morning I'd get back in the chair and it would just like clean her up, and then it was a really good way to get back into character.
Let's get back to that 16-hour day thing. So like, you know, something that I've experienced is like, just because that you can actually push through it doesn't mean that your brain can handle it. Like because what you're doing as an actress is just so mentally demanding. Did that eventually take a toll on you?
Wow, guys, this is incredible. These questions are great. I hope no one's listening.
no one listens to our show. It doesn't matter.
No. That's a great question. It really was demanding mentally. This is how I coped. So there were these hospital bracelets that I wear in the movie, and I kept them on for the whole shoot. I never took them off, because the only way to get those things off is you have to cut them off. Yeah. So I kept them on. So I never really completely broke character, but I was really lucky to have some good friends that really helped me a lot. And I would, on certain days when we weren't shooting really late, I'd hang out with a couple of friends and then just kind of be able to decompress and hang out and kind of be myself, and then go back into it. But that was kind of a rare occasion. But for the most part, I really tried to stay in character, because we'd be shooting and then I'd go to sleep and then I'd wake back up and then we'd keep shooting. Yeah. So it kind of was like I just was her for a month, you know. But after the wrap of the movie, I went right to college. I moved to WVU there was one day after the end of the shoot, and then I moved to school. I jumped right into the semester. So I just kind of was like, okay, done. On to the next thing.
Were you walking into WVU like, hello everyone, I'm an actress. I just finished my role as Grace in a feature film.
I walked into WVU with a bald head and a Vineyard Vines baseball hat on, embarrassingly shuffling all my things up to my dorm while boys looked at me like I was the scariest thing they've ever seen, which I was.
Probably fell over and slept for a week, right?
Yes. Well, no. I wish I could have, coffee guy. School. No.
Boys were intimidated.
People thought I was either really edgy, really sick. Yeah. And I was like, I'm neither of those things.
There's this documentary on Netflix called Jim and Andy. That's like, it follows Jim Carrey method acting Andy Kaufman in the movie Man on the Moon.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Nice.
fantastic. Everyone should go watch it. But
I'd love to see that.
The part I love at the end, he's like, after the movie finished filming, he's like, and then I had my own problems. Like I was back to being Jim, and I had my own problems. So is there like a little I'm sure like that was like a huge shoot, but this is like a smaller scale. Did you still have that kind of thing where you're like, now I have my own life problems again?
That's really interesting. Oh my gosh, it wrapped 3 years ago, and so much has happened since then. And I just remember feeling after it was over, feeling very much like, okay, put that away. Yeah. Okay. Now let's take on college and my classes and meeting new people. And,
was it hard to return to that sense of normalcy at all?
Schedule wise, I think I was pretty sleepy because it was like longer days, but, there was a routine and there was some sort of a schedule to the movie in terms of having to be there at a certain time in the morning and going from one location to the other. So it was demanding that in that way. So I felt pretty prepared to be bouncing all over when it came to being on a campus and getting to class. It wasn't too difficult of a transition. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It was almost like I did Grace. I filmed the movie and then it was like, all right, let's go to a new place and meet all new people and have no one know anything about the movie.
What was it like getting back into the role of Madelyn? Because you were Grace. You guys did about 35 days straight of filming. What was it like going back in to be you? Did you feel like Grace was still with you, or were you happy to shed her?
I was so sad to shed Grace. One of the greatest things about this movie for me, what was the greatest thing about filming it was that I learned courage, bravery, selflessness, and kindness from her. And that kind of approach to your daily life being one of, might be my last day. That mindset was something that I really, was submerged in for the shoot. And that's something that now I make sure I have every morning when I wake up. So I learned so much from her. And also that attitude of don't take anything for granted. Don't take the people around you for granted. Don't take your health for granted. Don't take opportunities for granted. I learned all of those things from getting into that character. And I really try to take those and remember those qualities. And it's hard. Life is hard. People forget, so it's such a challenge. And, but I feel a responsibility to maintain those qualities of her in my daily approach. And, that was my favorite part of the whole process.
Okay. We're going to go to a break real quick. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Poorly Edited Podcast, the show where we put on a spotlight on some of the most creative minds that we can find, the best as a couple of college students can.
Not very well.
Not very well. Thank you so much for tuning back in with us on WXLV The X. We're glad to have you. We're even gladder to have Madelyn Dundon here, the star of Getting Grace. She was just telling us about how she was actually able to learn life lessons from a character that was made up. And, I was thinking about that over the break. That's something that's really special. And you really got to give credit to the writers for something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, sometimes it can be hard enough to look around at other people and learn proper life lessons. But this is somebody who, real life experiences helped create her. But ultimately, just words on a page were able to transform you. And that's something that's really special.
And while this character was created, Grace is a real person. And that's something that we should talk about. Grace was based off of Danny Roebuck's daughter, who was not sick, but that type of character is who you embodied. And you didn't actually meet her till halfway through filming.
Right, exactly.
So what was that like, meeting her, being like, I'm playing you? And then did you adjust yourself at all? Or did you feel like you were on the money with portraying her?
Well, so Jerry Lewis originally wrote the character, and Danny was so, oh my goodness, enthralled with it because she reminded him so much of his own daughter. And so then he changed the name and gave her his daughter's name. When I got to meet Grace, she is a bundle of energy and light and joy. She's such a good time. That's like the best way to summarize her. She's very driven. She actually just graduated from college. Congratulations, Gracie.
Congratulations, Gracie.
Everybody say, congrats, Gracie.
Congrats, Gracie.
Congratulations.
She'll love that. I met her halfway through, and Grace Roebuck is so much like the character in the movie, a little bit more so than I am in terms of her sense of humor. Mine's just a little bit not as creative. Mine's a little bit just stupider or like zanier or goofier or, kind of not based in anything except like Charlie Chaplin skits. And her sense of humor is more, there's more wit and there's more, you know what I'm saying? She gets that from her dad. So I approached Grace a little bit. I didn't meet her, so I kind of created my own image of what the character was. And then when I met Grace Roebuck, it all kind of made sense, but it was too late to adjust because shooting had begun. So I had to stick to what I was doing with the character to begin with.
Also, you're like the lead actress, so you're in like most of the scenes,
all
and
of
your
them.
character,
Except the final one
is like super alive the entire time. So I'm like, when I heard that it was what, 35 days? Is that what it was straight? Like 16 hours a day.
Point.
I wouldn't be able to do that. That's insane.
You're not just there that many days. Yeah. You're there, and that's the biggest part of the scene.
Well, that's a good point. But also, what's really interesting about filmmaking that I just learned through this, because it was my first film experience. I've only ever done stage. There's a lot of time in between scenes when they're changing cameras and changing lights. So actually, although they were really long days, there was a lot of downtime in between. And what's also different is that it really, although it was mentally demanding to an extent, it was not the same as memorizing an entire play and running that whole play all the way through every night, because the scenes are very short, and then you do it once, or you do a couple takes of the scene, and then that scene's over. And then you're done, and you're never going to revisit that scene again, So in terms of memorizing lines, it wasn't as difficult as a stage production. But the other difficult thing about it, but I would say different thing about film versus stage, is that it's filmed out of order. So the film, I was shooting, the first scene I shot was the scene with Doug in the park when he tells me he is better, that he's getting better. So the first
scene you shot was the scene that you kissed him.
Yes, that was my first scene. That was our first scene.
How much time did you get before filming with him to get to know him before you dived into that?
I had met him once to do an audition with him. They auditioned him, or they gave him a call back, and we ran through the scene. I think it was that scene. But he didn't, I don't think they made him kiss me. I don't remember if they made him kiss me. I don't think they did. Or wait. They did.
You guys kiss in that scene.
But we do. And I think that then I met him the one time, and then it was the first day of shooting, and I was like, oh my gosh, hey, it's you. And then
I've known Pat for a year, and we haven't even hugged yet.
Oh, man.
So the fact that you just meet someone and are able to just dive into this and do such an emotional and physical scene like that, which is portrayed, so there's so much emotion in that, because at that time, you guys had that common ground in the movie that you guys were both sick together, and there wasn't much time left. And then you find out that he is actually getting better. He has a whole life ahead of him. And you see that really emotional scene at the end. And he asks, well, I'm not going to spoil it.
If you really want a hug from me, just write a skit where I hug you, and I'll do it.
Exactly.
It's also, you said it's your first movie you've ever been in.
Yes.
And right off the bat, it's like a super weird role to get into.
Yeah.
If you're portraying someone with like an illness or like a disability or something, you have to like really be careful, or else you might overstep or something like that. So like, was that like a concern going in?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you ask the best questions. I was so afraid going into this process in terms of the post-production, because it was finished, and I was so nervous that people who have been sick or have lost a child to cancer, or know someone who has, would be offended by it, or find it trite, or not understand the sense of humor, and or think that it was unrealistically portrayed. And that was so frightening for me. And that was, one of the reasons when it was so lovely to get to school, because it was like, okay, all right, I'm not gonna worry. Oh, it's post-production, nothing I can do now, like, I hope people like it. But that was something that was really scary for me. I was afraid of that. But when we started touring the movie, what was so incredible was we met so many people all down the East Coast. We went, I think, 14 cities. And a lot of people came up to me and said, I've lost a kid to cancer, or, I'm the survivor, and they all were touched by it and found it really realistic. And the Pediatric Cancer Foundation of Lehigh Valley had a luncheon halfway through shooting the movie. And so my two favorite things about the process was how much I learned from Grace, and then this one day and this one luncheon. It was halfway through the shoot, and I was exhausted, and everyone was getting really tired, and oh my gosh, getting a little bit burnt out. And they had this fabulous day at the banana factory, and we got to go in and meet families who have children that are in the middle of chemo right now. They have children that they have lost children. And so meeting these people and meeting those kids was the most inspiring thing for myself and for the entire cast and crew. And that was what that inspiration motivated us every second of every day of the remainder of that shoot. And not just for the shoot, but for the post-production and for the tour of the movie. We think about those people. They've been our biggest supporters in selling this film. And that was difficult. It was a difficult thing. Because I didn't have, as the actor, you don't have control over how people are going to take the performance, or you as the actor don't have control over the script.
Yeah.
You're given the material and it's up to you to portray it in a way that you find genuine, and that's all really you can do.
Yeah, I really, I think like when portraying that kind of stuff, it's important to get the you have to make it believable that they're a person before they had cancer. Because if you start like with the cancer and right around that, it feels weird. Yeah. But I feel like the way Grace was portrayed, it was like,
yeah,
I totally believe she was like a person up until that point, and then she happened to get cancer, and she wasn't like, I don't know, that wasn't like.
Sometimes you forget. I sort of forgot sometimes when I was watching, because it's not just about that. I think Dan described the movie as it's just a movie about the celebration of life, and I think that's how I feel about it. I think that's a good description for it.
Absolutely.
I also like that it's such a heavy topic, but you also. No one I've met who has had cancer is like, it's not depressing all the time. Like, they're just people, and they like, and they still like, they're some of the funniest people ever. Sometimes, like,
it's life, and it has its ups and downs. And I think the movie, in the script, he really tried to portray that. Lots of people I've met, it's like, we were goofing around. They were funny. They had their sense of humor until the end, and that's what's so inspiring and beautiful about. The kids that are battling pediatric cancer is how they keep their personality and that love of life. And I think that everyone can really, really learn something from that. And it's thank God that Danny made this movie happen, because it's such an important thing for people to see and talk about.
What was it like having Dan around all the time as a mentor?
He's incredible. Well, what I really like about Danny is how theatrical he is and how funny he is. And so having that sort of, can you imagine? I was so lucky. I'm so lucky that he was my first director, and that it wasn't some terrifying, intimidating person, he was so professional and efficient, and he knew what he wanted, and he kind of gave me some liberties, but he gave me so much direction. Okay, now you're going to look here, and I want to see this, and I want to see that. But he would give me a kind of a blueprint, and then he really gave me a lot of liberty in terms of accents. Everybody asks about that. That was funny.
I'd like to ask you a question about a scene that you did with him, which is the scene that stands out to me, one of the scenes that stand out to me the most, the rain scene.
Oh yeah.
Please tell me more about that.
Okay.
How that was filmed, how you felt. I think it was cold, it was raining, you had to be so emotional and just play off of him. What was that like? And you had to do it multiple times, over and over and over again.
So that scene was shot, of course, it was the hottest summer in the history of summers, except on that one night when we had fire hoses spraying down gallons of water, and I was getting soaked all the way through, and my mic actually got completely soaked. And none of my lines got caught. So in December, when it was in post, I had to go and record. They had me put on like headphones, and I watched the scene, and I said those lines. So in the movie, everything that you hear is me screaming it in December. It's not from that
that's what I love about movies.
Day.
So, like, it could be the process can be as weird as possible, but you can't tell if the end product's refined enough.
Yeah.
So then you had to go through that twice.
Yeah, we did the rain scene twice. Yes, exactly. But in terms of that scene, it was one of those moments when I really felt, oh my gosh, I am like the luckiest girl on the face of the earth. My high school history teacher came and was watching from the other side of the street. My best friend's sister was there watching across the street. My mom was the costume designer on this movie, and my sister was her assistant. And I was so lucky. I really remember we'd do a take of it, and I'd go running through, and I'd be soaking wet, and then I'd go up to the front door, and my mom and my sister would be there, and my best friend's mom, and they'd wrap me up in a blanket, and they'd dry me up, and they would get me ready to do the next take. And I just was so lucky to have loved ones, my best friends in the whole world right there with me, to give me strength and encouragement and love and warmth when it was cold and rainy and it was 2 a.m. and Danny was, nervous and, wanted to get it just right. And I wanted to get it just right. So it was so meaningful for me to have so much support there. And that's why I'm so lucky that it was shot in my hometown, to be surrounded by so many people that I know and love and people that really cared about Danny and the project.
I feel like that comes through in the movie too, that it's like shot at home and it's like a,
Can we talk about the main character of the movie, Bethlehem?
Yes.
Like, so you
She's
guys,
gorgeous. Isn't she
This is so
amazing? She's
beautiful.
so talented.
so you guys worked with the police, the firefighters.
Yeah.
They shut down Main Street Bethlehem
Yes.
for this movie.
Yes.
Which is a big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen unless it's
No.
Music Fest, and
Yeah.
everyone knows that.
did you have a moment where you're walking past like the barricade and you're like, no, I'm part of it?
Yeah, let me through. Just take off my hat and point at the head. You know who this is. No. We shot a scene. I gotta say, I'm heartbroken about the state of the Moravian Bookshop on Main Street. I think everybody is. The state of the Moravian Bookshop. Can't even talk about it. But in the movie, there was a great scene shot inside the Moravian Bookshop and outside the Moravian Bookshop. And so to be standing there and Daddy's behind the camera and I was with Dana Ashbrook from Twin Peaks and he's standing next to me and everybody's fangirling and there's the guy from the Morning Call. This is a really funny story. We had a reporter from the Morning Call. We were right about Bethlehem's not used to having movies being shot. So when you're ready to shoot a scene, no one's allowed in the shot, obviously, besides the actors. So we're getting ready to shoot and this guy from the Morning Call, he's a great guy and he's a great reporter. He was so excited and he comes up to Dana and he starts interviewing him and we're, they're going lights, sound, rolling, like, let's go. We're right in front of the Moravian Bookshop and the guy goes up to Dana and he's like, so, Mr. Ashbrook, tell me. Dana's looking at him like, Dan, what do I do? So lots of funny things like that would happen. We had Danny's dad, Pops, would just wander into like every shot.
Is that his name or is that just what everyone called him?
Pops. Everyone
Okay.
calls him
Yeah,
Pops. Yeah.
And you
Pops.
notice it. Like Daniel told me about that, and I went back and watched it. And there's a lot of scenes in the funeral home where he's just
There.
walking very, very subtly, but he's there, and that's like cute little Easter egg that you don't find out about later. Like the next movie would just be all about Pops.
That'll be the spinoff.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, in all seriousness, Bethlehem was the saving grace of this movie. She provided the food, the shelter, and the scenery. And we had Potts hot dogs and Pete's hot dogs and St. Luke's Hospital and St. Luke's Hospice giving us their space to use. And the film was just so incredible. And Danny was so fortunate. And, but I have to say that this is a testament to what an incredible man he is and how kind and caring and giving he is to this community. All of that came full circle. And because of the man he is, that's why he got so much support, but also that's not saying any, St. Luke's and all the gestures and the generosity of the people and the places and the organizations around here that contributed to the film, that was so kind and giving of them. So we're just eternally grateful. But yeah.
All right, we're gonna go to a break real quick. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Madelyn Dundon.
Hi, Pat.
Right off the bat, what's your favorite hot dog institution in the Lehigh Valley?
Well, Pat, if I ever eat a hot dog ever again, it'll be at Potts. Potsy's.
I don't.
Can we get the numbers crunched on how many you actually ate for the film?
I might projectile now if I talk about it.
Really?
I don't remember. There were so many. There were multiple hot dog scenes, and there are multiple
And
takes.
there were chili dogs too, so it's not.
There were
even-
chili dogs. There were
That's-
chili
that's
cheese
going all
dogs.
Do you
the way.
like chili?
I like my mom's chili.
Okay.
Shout out to my mother's incredible chili.
Did you make her make it and then low key like sneak her chili
sneak
into
it onto the pots. They would be so offended. Can you imagine if I did that? I brought my own chili to put on the hot dogs for this shoot. My own special recipe. No, I was getting cold hot dogs and warm hot chocolate.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Getting Grace. The shoot of Getting Grace in a nutshell.
All right.
Well, if I could summarize it in one sentence, cold hot dogs, warm chocolate milk.
I was reading something about, maybe one of you guys were telling me, I don't remember, but it was about
Maybe
the
I dreamed it.
feasts.
Maybe it didn't happen.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And the feasts in the Harry Potter movies would sit there for like days. And it was real food. And it would just stink.
Oh, that's
believe
horrible.
So there's that.
There you go.
And they
You're
put
welcome,
I
everyone.
actually just watched a video on the different types of preservatives and how the whole entire thing is made for food, for feasts. It's so interesting. They'll put like all different types of chemicals and cleaners on set, and they have to like low key have all these little signs everywhere that say, "Don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this." Yeah, I just watched a really interesting way how those
Yeah,
turkeys.
we didn't have that luxury.
Yeah.
No, it just would sit.
You know, how Martha Stewart makes those big, beautiful
Yeah.
turkeys. How the process of the front cover is actually made. 'Cause she's not eating that.
Oh.
She's not eating what you see.
No.
There's like a short. There's a series of, I don't know where it is actually, but this dude just bought a hamburger from McDonald's and just put it on his kitchen counter for like a year and a half.
Oh, no.
And it looks exactly the same.
No.
Nothing grew on it. It's probably as edible as any McDonald's hamburger, but
McDonald's, we still
Oh
would be
my
sponsored by you
goodness.
if you're up for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this weekend, you did this amazing thing, which is, other than being an actress, you're also an incredible singer and a dancer.
Oh,
so you were in the Lehigh Valley play, which was the Nutcracker
The
this
ballet guild of the Lehigh
the
Valley.
Ballet Guild of Lehigh Valley. You performed in the Nutcracker this weekend?
Yes.
And you must be exhausted, so thank you for even showing up
Well,
today. I would have
you
slept
know-
for a year straight.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have to say that unlike years of past where I have performed the role of Snow and Flowers, this year the role I performed was the role of, drum roll please, Coffee Guy. The Rat King.
the Rat King.
I was the Mouse King. That was
Wow.
my role.
That's
I
pretty
have to
legit.
say that we do 4 public performances and 4 school performances for 16 schools in the entire Bethlehem School District. The 4,000 kids see the Nutcracker that week.
Wow.
4,000. And on the last, so I took death requests every day. And on the last school show, I said, okay, everybody, death requests. And they went, hit them with the floss. When the Mouse King dies, there's like, he infamously gets a moment to be slightly comedic before he deceases. And so I hit him with the floss and the kids went crazy. And so then the artistic director, Keenan, asked me to then do the floss for the public performances. But I have to say it was our 50th Nutcracker. My mother is the costume mistress. She's a professional costume designer. Obviously, she had done Getting Grace, but she's a ballet costume designer. And the costumes, she made 75% new costumes, 481 costume elements.
Wow.
We had incredible guest artists from the Pennsylvania Ballet who are also celebrating their 50th. So for anyone listening, please come see PYB, the Ballet Guild of Lehigh Valley's Nutcracker next year because it is an incredible, incredible production.
Now you say it, I'm pretty sure I've seen it when I was a kid.
Yeah, probably
That
got to
probably
go
makes
see
sense.
it on
I'm
a field trip.
extremely disappointed I didn't get to make
That
it
is
this weekend,
okay.
especially because there was flossing going on. Now, to my
Yes,
very
yes.
old,
I floss every night.
my very old co-host here, guys, do you know what flossing is?
I'm younger than you.
No, actually, no.
You don't?
You don't actually know what
They
it is.
don't know. That's why
No,
they didn't
yeah.
laugh.
There's,
No,
it's,
no.
Yeah,
It's
so
the
they love
backpack
it's,
kids
It's a
dance.
dance move.
the
I'll show
dancing,
you.
Yeah.
It's the thing Brady does.
Need a
all the
close-up
time.
of this?
Show you.
Okay. All right. I got it.
You've seen Brady do that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
No
It means a
sound
lot
for
to the young,
floss. But
young
they-
Fortnite kids out
Yeah,
there. They're
yes,
really,
yeah.
So they're
like
still laughing is what's
They're
going
still
on.
laughing. I was like, this is why we do what we do. The roar of the grease paint, the smell of
is
the
art.
crowd.
But
This is art.
But this weekend is not the only weekend that you are going to be dancing. You have, congratulations to Miss Madelyn Dundon. She has a full scholarship for
Yes.
theater and dance to WVU.
Yes.
So you dance there and
I
you
am.
sing. I think you sing opera. You're getting into jazz.
Yes. So I'm a dance major at West Virginia with an art history minor, and I train classically, but my favorite music is the American Songbook. So I've always loved jazz, and so there's a jazz program there that I'm involved with as well. There's some recordings on SoundCloud of myself and my 2 buddies that are recording artists now in New York, but they had gone to Lehigh, and that's when I met them. But we're going to work on some new stuff.
Do you want to let everyone know where they can listen to that?
SoundCloud. It's called Jazzy Times. Oh, no, Fancy Free on SoundCloud. Nagasaki. We have three songs on the SoundCloud. It's called Fancy Free, Nagasaki, Blue Moon, and After You've Gone.
Isn't that 4?
3.
I just looked at her eyes and she just questioned everything.
I was like, After You've Gone, Fancy Free is the band that we formed.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I didn't
I'm sorry.
specify.
No, it's okay. You're good.
No, I'm
You're
an
good.
imbecile.
You're an imbecile.
So
Oui.
I know basically nothing about dance, which may surprise everyone in this room.
I thought you danced every night.
Yeah, right. So I kind of want to. What do you like? What makes dance special? Like what? So you do a lot of creative things and like a bunch of different artistic forms. So what makes what does dance offer that everything else doesn't? Like what makes it special?
Oh my gosh, you're the best. We should get coffee, Patrick. These are such good questions. What I love about ballet was my first love. I started dancing when I was 3. And what I love about dance is its ability to express and tell a story with no words, which I know, film can do or a composition can do, but for you to experience yourself those emotions and those feelings and to communicate it directly to someone watching is what's special to me about dance. Also the physical discipline of it, the athleticism that it demands, while simultaneously appearing effortless and graceful and fluid, is such an incredible antithesis. And so for all of those reasons, I love it. There's just nothing like it. It's very magical.
We actually have a guest right behind us, I believe.
What's going on?
I don't know who that is. If we could just
It's
tell a
my
little
sister.
hello. This is Evie Dundon here.
Yes.
Say hello to the people.
Hi.
Hi guys, how's it going?
That's my sister. Hello, Evie. This
For
is the
many of you that don't know,
Yeah.
she actually worked on Getting Grace
She
too.
worked on Getting Grace.
I did.
Costume assistant on Getting
I
Grace.
did continuity.
Continuity.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's wearing a red hat.
I am.
Continuity.
Remember
was
that.
annoying.
It changes colors.
Hi.
There's a problem.
Yeah, I just want to check things out. Yeah, thank you so much for letting me in.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Come back anytime.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. All right.
That was Evie Dundon. Find her on YouTube. Evie Dundon. She's got some great videos on there.
Such good videos.
Yeah, you were telling me
awesome.
about that. I wasn't aware of those.
So her sister makes videos about their trips, their travels, and different things like that. This one here, you
Yeah.
made this video with your sister about Coco Chanel. And
Yes.
it's the funniest, most adorable
Yes.
thing ever.
Thank
You
you.
are dressed like her. You do what she does. You're smoking a fake cigarette the entire time, and you're holding a bottle of Coco Chanel, and you're telling everyone how to say things, normal things in French. You're like la robe, and I was like, I watched it last night at maybe 4 a.m, just
Yeah.
dying like delirious.
It is like we were delirious making that. That was a total my sister's incredibly talented. She has the voice of Judy Garland,
Wow.
the kindness of Mother Mary, the patience of a very slow animal, and she's incredibly talented. A turtle, I'd say. Or they're patient with themselves.
Sure.
She's incredibly talented. She's my soul sister and my partner in crime.
She made another video of you going to your prom, and you looked so beautiful.
Oh, thank
and the soundtrack was lovely, and it was just so cute.
She's got such an eye and a really great aesthetic, and really great at producing videos. And she did a great job with the South Side Proud this past summer, and she made some great content for them. And she was running their social media, so she's hey, if you guys are looking for someone to work on your social media.
I definitely want to talk to her.
Presence.
Can she be the next guest? Evie, can you come back here? We're gonna get Madelyn out of here. Evie,
Evie, get in
Pat,
here.
can you roll back the tape? We're just gonna toss this first part.
She's much more interesting than I am.
that's
true.
I'm sure you're both equally interesting and talented in your own way. This is adorable that we just have her smiling face right behind us the entire time.
She can hear what we're saying, right?
I don't know, actually.
Can you wave if you can hear us?
I can. Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, she didn't
All right.
wave, so I don't know.
Yes, she can. Yay!
So you do these cute little skits with your sister, but you've also, on a more professional level, make these one-woman shows?
Yes.
Sorry to break things up. We have to go to break real quick. We can come back.
Oh my gosh.
And when we
Say
come
what?
back,
Find about one-woman shows,
she performs her one... No, she doesn't.
All right, we'll be right back.
She wasn't.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming back. You're listening to the Poorly Edited Podcast. We're live on WXLV The X. We're here with Madelyn Dundon, the star of Getting Grace, Grace herself. Thank you so much for tuning back in. When we left off, you were about to tell us a little more about these one-woman shows that you're doing.
Rudely interrupted you.
Yeah, before
Pat was, I'm not interested. I started writing my own one-woman plays because of my sister, actually. We were doing the National History Day competition in high school.
Oh.
Yes, and there was a category.
That was always a good experience.
Right? Pat, you know about NHD?
Yeah, I had to do it.
Where did you go to school?
Emmaus.
Emmaus? Oh my gosh, I loved NHD. NHD has made me the person that I am today.
We had very different experiences.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I had a magical NHD experience.
for the people who don't know what that is, tell everybody.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. You're good.
The National History Day competition is basically like science fair, but for history.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty much that.
Yeah.
And so there was a category for one-woman shows. And so I started researching and writing my own one-woman plays and competing with them. And I did one on Coco Chanel. And I did one on women on the home front during World War II. And then in my senior year, I wrote a one-woman play about Henry and Emily Folger and the Folger Shakespeare Library in Washington, D.C. And I was able to research in D.C. at the Folger Shakespeare Library right across the street from the Capitol and the Library of Congress and the Supreme Court. It's the home to the biggest collection of Shakespeare in the entire world, 82 first folios. It is my favorite place in the world. It's definitely, if you're ever in D.C., please plan a time to go visit the Folger. And I was able to research there, and then I was invited to perform the play there at their open house that they have on Shakespeare's birthday every year. And so then I performed it there for 3 years, and then I interned at the Folger Shakespeare Library this past summer.
Was this the first time you had tried writing plays? Like, did you write in general when you were younger, or did you just take a crack at it and hit it out of the park?
My sister actually is an incredible creative writer. She wrote as a kid. She has a book. She won a competition at the Bethlehem Public Library, and so you can go find her book at the Bethlehem Public Library and get it. And it's called Silent Border, and you can take it out at the library.
She wrote a book?
She wrote a book. Yes, she's incredible.
How old
she's
is she?
freakishly talented. Well, she was. How old were you when you wrote that book?
Like 12.
She was 12. You're right here. She was 12 years old.
Yeah, no, but yeah.
She will be, seriously me. She's like patiently, sweetly sitting and listening to this whole thing. She was 12. She wrote creatively as a kid, and that really inspired me. I always thought, I'm not very good at writing, but then I really love history, so I got to high school and I really wanted to give it a try because she, in her freshman year, wrote a play for National History Day competition. And so I was like, well, and then I saw how she did, and I was like, oh, I think I could try that. And so, yeah, that was my first experience writing. Obviously, I'd written essays for school, but I'd never written a play.
Yeah, I think I found out why you like History Day more than I do. Because I made a bad trifold with 2 of my friends who also didn't want to do it.
Trifold!
So yours is way cooler.
What is a one-woman show like, to have no other crutches other than yourself? No one to work off of, to play off of. It's just yourself. And no one, not even a director or anything like that, because you wrote it. It's
your show. It's your production. It's
that would terrify me.
It's a product of a lot of research. I think the best one-man, one-woman shows are if you're doing it on a historical figure. If you have all the research, if you really become immersed in that person's life, there's nothing really daunting about it. You're able to kind of just transform into them, and if you know your research very well, you're never going to forget what you have to say, So, for time, I'm going to stop rambling on.
No, you're good.
We have to fill more time anyway.
Yeah. So, you're involved with all these things, and you've been involved with some of them for such a long time. Mm-hmm. What is it inside of you that drives you to be such a workhorse in so many different avenues?
Well, that's a great question. I am very indebted to my mom. She exposed us to theater when we were like in strollers. She's a costume designer. She's a director. She has her degree in theater from DeSales University. And we grew up right down the street from Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival. So my obsession with Shakespeare was fostered through that festival, starting at as the first thing I can remember, as soon as I can remember remembering anything. And I started dancing right away, and I started singing, and it's just always been my life. And my sisters being so incredibly talented is something that we've always pursued. And my father, Lieutenant Colonel Special Forces Green Beret, was in the military, so he was deployed our entire childhood. So it was really the three of us, and I think that we got involved in so many things because my mom wanted us to be busy, and I think she saw, okay, like they're good at that, so they should pursue it. And I've always loved it. I love art, I love the performing arts, and I love art, and it's my life, and it's what I do. And I guess the need to be creating, I guess, I know that sounds pretentious, but I think that's what motivates me to keep pursuing
You're
things.
talking to a room and talking to an audience of just creators. So I think you're okay. You're fine.
There you go. Okay, great. Well,
yeah, you're good.
It's kind of an obsession, and it's a need to create, and I'm always inspired by film I see, or by other dancers I see, or by things I read. I love history so much, and I want to honor history, and I want to teach history and to people through performance and through art. And it's like, it's an obsession. Well, it's just who you are. It's if you're really born into it, you're born into it. And I feel like I've been born into it, and it's my duty because it's the only thing I'm good at. I don't have any other skills. I'm not good at math or science or
Your skills have a list that go far off the page.
So unfortunately, we can't keep talking forever as much as we'd like to.
Oh man,
so
dang it.
On that positive note, I think we have to close it out. So if anyone has anything you want people to check out, feel free.
Definitely check out the previous sort of episode to this with Daniel Roebuck. You can find that on our YouTube page. Just search for Lab 212, and you can definitely watch that. Sort of the precursor to this episode. Watch in whatever order. It doesn't actually matter.
Sets up the lore for this episode.
Yeah, it sets up the lore. And then, we took a little bit of a hiatus from WXLV, so there's a bunch of content that you probably missed, so you can check that out. You can find that on the same place. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to mention.
I would like to thank Madelyn for coming. I'm so very excited. And you also brought Evie, who I definitely want to get to know more.
Yes.
Please. Hi, Evie. Oh, she heard me. Please, guys, please, if you have the chance, go learn more about her. She's really an amazing person, Madelyn Dundon. Getting Grace will be available on Netflix in January. It's available on Amazon. It's available on Walmart.com and many different iTunes, many different places.
Google.
Yeah, and check out the Ballet Guild of the Lehigh Valley.
Yes,
the Nutcracker performance.
Sly Elliott and everything.
Sly Elliott on everything. Yeah, make sure you follow Chandler and everything. Keep an eye out for Madelyn Dundon with the career that she's going to have based on the talents and the opportunities that she's creating for herself. It's going to be something special. So looking forward to that. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys.